Hello, and welcome to My Story. Thank you so much for joining us today. I have a special guest. And first of all, before we get there, I do appreciate your support. I do appreciate your suggestions. I do appreciate your liking, subscribing, and commenting on YouTube. Thank you. Now, today, we will fulfill one of your suggestions. So stay right there. Do not go and do not touch that dial. My story.
My story.
My story is a place of hope and healing for all people, men, women, veterans, young adults, teenagers, and even children. Everyone, regardless of their social status or sexual orientation. It is a place of motivation and inspiration. My story will talk about real life situations and real life stories because no one is immune to stress, depression, anxiety, and other mental health problems, and our stories resonate. My name is Grace Ngere, Suicide Awareness and Prevention Advocate. Welcome back, and thank you for being with us. So, as I said before, we have a special guest, and he is special to my story as he is special to me. He comes before anyone else. You know what that means? B-A-E, Bay. Anyway. Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm doing okay.
Okay, so this is Ngere in the Ngere. You know Grace Ngere? This is where I borrowed that name, or I adapted the name. And he is my other half, because, you know, I'm half without him. So what is your name?
My name, Job Maura, Ngere Maura for those who like it that way. And I'm happy to be invited to my story.
Thank you so much, and thank you actually for even agreeing to come. This is not a normal thing it's common knowledge for men. They don't talk, you know, they barely give their stories. So you coming here, I really do appreciate. I know you have not done it just because I am your other half. I know. And first, also, thank you so much for supporting. Actually, he's the guy behind the scenes all the time on my story. My story is here because of him. They're filming a lot of things. He's the behind the scene guy. So,
thank you.
Yeah, I really do appreciate your support, like from the bottom of my heart. So today, you're here on my story to tell us a story. What is your story?
I would tell you a little bit about myself, and for one, it is not common for people to be interviewed by their wives. So this is
that's true.
A new thing.
Yeah.
However, I have followed the story, and I've listened to people sharing their stories of how they've gone through stuff and how they've overcome. And certainly I've not really met one of the guys come out and say whether they went through stuff. And I kept wondering, because I do not think that guys do not go through things.
Oh, they do.
They do, but we walk it off, maybe just internalize it and not tell anybody about it, which is some of the coping skills, which really is not supposed to.
Right. And even, you know, as we know, common knowledge, we know men die earlier or younger than women.
Yes.
And we hear that's one of the reasons, you know, they don't, because women, they'll go talk with their girlfriends or their moms or whoever.
Have their pity parties.
Yeah, exactly. But then for men or a man, they'll just die.
Cry from within,
with whatever is going on in their life. So this is a huge thing for you to agree to come here, and you're becoming a role model to your son, to the young guys out there, to even the older men out there, that it is okay to talk. Because when you talk, when
you kind of let it go. You know, I might not be of help, but when you take it out, it helps. So thank you so much. Tell us about your story. Tell us where you began, or a little bit about your background.
Yes, I come from a family of 5 boys.
Mm-hmm.
We call ourselves the royal family because we had no girls. No offense.
Uh-huh.
And when I went to school and cleared, we call it cleared high school, I set my foot on doing some enterprise.
Mm-hmm.
I started a barber shop. I did telephone service. I did calling cards.
Mm-hmm.
Anything that could give me money, I started it.
Mm-hmm.
I did that from the early 90s. And I did for like 15 years. Business was so good. Actually, my sales and everything I did was having an upward trajectory.
Which to me, I think it was a big deal actually that time then, because people back that time, young men usually were not like, well, yeah. So I was saying, the young guys usually at that time, they were not like that well, and you know, that was something like I used to look at. I mean, it's not what made me like you or get you know, admire you or anything, but it was a component, like a unique component. So yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, so I was very I was a very ambitious young man. So having not gone to college because of the financial constraints, as I said, we were 5 boys in the family, and 2 of us just cleared high school. We had 3 going, and I knew my dad was not going to be able to pay for my college. He had wanted me to go to India for university, but I turned that down, so I decided to do business.
Yeah, and you know, that is very common with where we come from. We want to go to high school, but we are not able to because of how situations are. I think it's getting a bit better with many people now. So you being where you were when I came to know you, I think you had done a tremendously good job being a young man with a business, with a car. I think that was like a really big deal, and an example to many young men even then, because I remember, you know, people would talk about it and say how good you are. So I think you've been a role model to many people and an influential guy then and now for those people who know you.
Yeah, so not going to college did not stop me. I went to the business world and I did very well. I did better than most people who are even older than me. And I also influenced some young people who became business minded after school, and they knew that college was not the only thing you can do.
Right.
Anyway, when I did all my business, it was time that I decided to settle. In my early 30s, I dated a beautiful lady for a few years.
Yeah.
And we finally went down the aisle. I remember it very well, vividly, in May 2002.
Okay.
We had a nice time and things were going well as we had planned.
Right.
Remember that I had said I had a matatu. And having a matatu means that I had employed a few people. And that is one of the things that happened when we got married. We had a new regime, and some policies and things changed in that government, and some policies affected us. The place, remember, where we had rented, the electricity was not within the area where the government wanted it, and we had to lose our electricity.
And this is because they had to create the road or expand the road
for construction.
Right.
Expansion of the roads. So our electricity had to go. And your guess is as good as mine when you lose electricity and you have kinyozi stima.
Right.
There's no haircuts that can be done.
Kinyozi stima meaning a barber shop.
A barber shop
right.
with electricity.
Yeah.
So even battery charging that we did, we could not do that with electricity anymore. We actually lived in the same place, so even our livelihood
Some
was
of the
affected.
cooking.
Some of the cooking and ironing, and
Yeah.
so it really affected our lives.
Yeah.
And at that moment, things changed because we had begun to enjoy our lives together. Then that happened, and it gave me so many questions, and I could hide and ask myself, why now? Why to us? Because I've had some 15 years on my own and nothing happened. And just the year that I got married, here it comes.
Right.
And we had our child on the way. Our firstborn was on the way, and so it was quite a challenge having few mouths to feed, and your livelihood gets affected.
You have to get ready. And you know the interesting thing, our viewer, all this time, I didn't even know you were going through this. You know, we're in the same house. Yes, all these things are going through. I was a working, very pregnant mother.
Yeah.
Or mother to be. But I didn't know he was going through anything until actually after we came here. You mentioned it like here and there, not like in a story form or in a way to like but and this is what we're talking about. You sometimes we die with what we have. We die with the stress and depression, and even the person you are with in the house, you're not telling them what is going on. So yes, go ahead.
It is a thing with men. I thought it was only me, but I came to talk to other men. They do not tell their things. You just try and fix things silently and make sure they work. I know I was working on it. But on a side note, we were also leaders in the church. I was an elder at a local church, and I was expected to be the source of hope for others. So before I became a source of hope for others, I would also start at home. So I remember that every morning and every evening when we go to sleep, we would talk about it, pray about it, and look for some help in the scriptures. And as time went by, things changed. The policies were changed. We got back our electricity, and looking back, I was just going to my business records and looked at the good times. And I would tell myself that things would be better again.
Right.
And that was the motivator for me. Because when you look at the good things that have happened and other things come, you know that things can turn again and the tide can turn. So with that, I was comforted. And actually, there was a scripture that I remember reading one time. My wife never knew about it until recently. Because I'd read it, and it was about, I'll go back to the scripture and remember, it was when Israel was attacked, and the king called all the people to fast, and when they fasted, he read the scripture that we read today on 2 Chronicles 20, verse 12, that says, "Our eyes are upon you, God." So everything else was gone but their eyes. The only thing they could do, the only help they could find is the eyes keeping them on God.
On God. Looking up to God.
Looking up to God. And that is what exactly happened to us. And I would combine that with what I usually share. Psalm 30, verse 5. Joy comes in the morning, and the night endures just for a little bit.
Actually, that's my favorite, which I learned from you as we were dating. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, and actually when the tough times come, that is when you get all these scriptures or these parts that encourage.
Right.
So, knowing that our eyes were on God, we knew things are going to be, and they turned out to be right. When our child was born, things turned around. We got to win the diversity lottery. And we changed. I mean, our location was changed. Looking back now.
Yeah. So let me ask you, because I remember when that letter came.
Yes.
Tell me a little bit. How did the letter come? I know how it did, but let's tell our viewer how did you feel? How was it? Like, can you tell us a little bit how you found out we won? and a little bit of what happened and how that made you feel and how you saw God in that.
Actually, I had personally participated in the green card lottery for over 7 years. I have even done it for others.
Me included, before
You
even I
included,
got married.
and
Yeah.
nothing ever came to happen. But here comes my wife, and actually I remember very well that I had to force her, drag her out of the house to take that picture, to even submit everything.
Hey, don't blame me too much. I was
It's-
like 1 or 2 months pregnant.
We'll blame the baby. We'll blame the baby. And we
Who happens
actually,
to be the cameraman?
yes. So after having that
Mm.
tough moment, and then one of my brothers goes to the post office and brings that white envelope, and we say, wow, God
big one.
really answers prayers,
Yes.
because we're
I
not
remember-
expecting it.
I remember he came and he was by the barber shop in
Yeah.
front, because we used to live behind.
Mhm.
And he goes, "Ako wapi Wambo?"
Yeah,
I was like, "Why is Frank looking for me?" Ako
Yeah.
wapi Wambo means, where is Wambo? They call me Wambo.
Mhm.
I was like, why is Frank looking for me?
yeah.
And oh gosh, he comes holding the white big envelope like this.
And hands it over to you.
And yes, that
And the
time,
screams I heard from that moment, it was a
turned-
jubilation.
Yeah, it turned our lives.
Yeah, so that turned the darkness into light. We had all those challenges, and it was not easy. But what I would like to say to our viewers or to the listeners, we could have given up and maybe close shop and go to up country and begin farming, or maybe desperately stay in the village and do nothing. But we had to fight. We had to stay strong, and especially for my family and my kids, we really did stay strong. And I would like to tell the men who are listening, I have observed the suicide rates out of desperation, because you cannot provide, and you feel like it is your fault. Even if it is a policies from the government, it's a drought, whatever it is not your fault. You can fight on, and things will turn around someday. After all, hard times come to toughen people, and they do not last.
Keep holding on. Keep
holding
looking
on.
at that little hope you might have, for tomorrow. Like I feel like our hope, we had a baby on the way, so that is what we were looking for.
Yes.
We were okay on my side. We had to make it for this baby, and now this one reminds me too, when we felt like, this was for both of us, but I don't know about you on your side, but winning the lottery green card, it was a light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes.
However, it was a good light with no means. We didn't know how to.
Yes.
I remember saying, I will not go because there was a time it came that I was like, the advices and stuff like, oh, you'll have to leave the baby, go to America, get them ready, and then get
Come
ready,
back
and
for the
then
baby,
bring your wife, your husband, and your kid. And I was like, I am not leaving my child behind, or my husband. So then that was another struggle. It was on my side, and I know it was on yours. Can you tell us about that, and how did we even end up having all the money to be able to pay for 3 tickets and come start life here in America?
It was, I would say, even today I cannot tell you what kind of miracle that was, because as we said, we left everything in God's hands, and our eyes were upon God. So we did fundraisers. We had friends who came from just nowhere. They come and say, I thought I could help you with something, and they gave us the money, and things turned around to be very good. So we were able to make it. And when we made it over here, we say that we are going to be a source of help for whoever needed us. So we even had a few families that we hosted in our place, just because we were given some accommodation from sources we never expected. And we paid back. We paid back.
Yes.
We've done it over and over. So I would not imagine what could have been had we given up. All the people who have got help from us because of what we are now could not have gotten it.
Right.
So every time we despair and make others lose their blessings because God had placed their blessings in your hands.
That's a good one. It's a good one. That when we despair, we also affect. It's like a chain.
Yep.
You know, this thing leads to the other and another to the other. So you holding on. It's a blessing. It is a turning point. You might be a turning point to somebody else. And everybody who comes here on my story, I'm telling you that is what you're doing. And even listening, and even just viewing it, you know, and even sharing it. There might be just one person who just came to America and they want to hear what you just said. You know, not for them to despair, because they might be a blessing to somebody else who will be coming to America tomorrow or the next day. So
That's right.
Thank you. That is really, really good to hear that. So all in all, I know also being in America is not a joke. And I gave my story the other day.
It's a struggle. Yeah.
And a matter of fact, one of your friends asked you, where were you when she was going through this?
Yes.
You know, my story is bringing a lot of even light to me too. I will not lie. It also speaks to me with everyone who comes and talks. And so when you asked me, your friend was asking you where you were when I was going through, I also realized I was going through what I was going through by myself. So actually, it's not just men. You know, maybe I was venting to someone else or my mom or whatever, but I was not venting to you. You probably knew I was stressed and depressed. I wasn't clinically diagnosed. But what I'm trying to say is, you can be both in the same house, you're both going through things, but you don't know. You don't know. And to a point where I drove to the parking lot to end my life. Thank God, there's always a higher power. And that is what also Job said. And when I say a higher power, I would like to bring this. There's always a higher power in everybody. That consciousness that talks to you, that little voice that talks to you and tells you, do you really think you need to do this? Or you might not even hear it, but it might just redirect you from a path that you were taking that is the wrong path and directs you to the right path.
Yeah.
So there's always that higher power. Know that even as you listen, and if you're going through it, trust that small voice. Trust that small voice. So I was gonna ask you, when you came here, how did you cope? How did you cope? We had there you were able to cope. You know, God did help you. But overall, to this particular day we're here, how have you been coping with life in America?
With life in America, I would say this is a very depressive place as compared to where we came from.
Despite the money.
Despite the money is not everything.
Opportunities.
We had social life back in Kenya where we could talk with our fellow men.
Just sit by the barber shop outside there
and have some fun with everybody.
Yeah.
But over here, you come from one shift, you come home, there is no social life as much as we had it in Africa.
Yeah.
But all the same, the coping skills that we learned when we were younger, they help you a long way. Because if you learned to be patient and have that fighting spirit, you would fight and get things together. And again, for those who are couples or married or who have their significant others, that's the best place. If you confide with each other, your struggles are halved. Because a problem shared is half solved.
Right. And we
do that.
We have learned it the hard way.
We had it the hard way, yes.
Right. There's a time we didn't, but we have learned it the hard way, and I'm thankful that you can listen to me, and hopefully I can listen to you. I do listen to you.
Yeah, and actually what I would say is that as the saying goes, a rose comes between thorns. We might love the rose the way it looks, but a rose comes between thorns. You might smell the rose, but you also get some poking from the thorns.
Right.
So it comes as a package. So your work is to smell the roses and avoid the thorns.
And walk through the
Walk
thorns.
through the thorns
Yeah.
to get the rose to be the way it is.
The beautiful rose.
So that's how the life is. When you have those challenges, work on them, and so you can enjoy the good things of life.
Would you advise us to seek help if you believing in God, if you're listening to that little voice is not helping? Would you advise whoever is listening at this moment to seek for help if it gets to that point?
Yes, I have always advocated for help. Because when we used to talk to friends, that was some coping skills. When you don't have those friends, we have medicine.
Right.
We have people who have skills and they have trained
Right.
on how to deal with mental health issues, just like we have doctors for medical issues. The help is there. When you need it, seek for that help, and it really is going to turn things around for most people.
So true.
It's always good to seek help.
So true. If you needed advice on that, we can go through together if you ever feel like you need help. And I always put a little clip at the end of my videos, the number 988. That's a 24/7 number that you can call if you're in crisis or somebody that you know is in crisis. You can call that number, and 24/7 here in America, there's always help. And there's international numbers too, and you can reach out to me if you need help. So give us the last advice, word of advice to men, particularly because you are a man, and even to women, to teenagers, to kids, because my story is for all people. It doesn't matter your sexual orientation, your career, whether you're a doctor or whatever you are. What can you advise us today, Mr. Job?
Yes, my advice would be, it's always good to speak out. Don't suffer in silence. I know from where you come from, our male friends, you don't cry in public. You don't even show your struggles. It is okay. If you have a choice between dying and sharing, I would rather share.
Amen.
And for the women, I know you talk and you speak out. It's okay.
Yes.
You have boy children. They need to learn that it's okay. When things are tough, speak about it. A problem shared is half solved. So just talk about it, and once you talk it out, like we also say about women, when they speak it out, when they cry it out, it comes off their shoulders and they do not have stress. No wonder they live longer. So I'd rather share and live than cry from the inside and those tears hurt me in the end.
Yeah.
So it's always good to come out, talk to a friend, talk to somebody. Let it go. You don't have to hold on it forever because it's not helping you. Because when you have a problem and you hide it and you hold it like it is your own, when good things come, you will never know because you're so full of that hatred, that despair, that bad thing that happened to you. You have no room for other good things. So let it go, share it, or even cry it out, and that is how you can, that's a good way of coping.
Thank you. That I like that. I really do. I saw a clip the other day. You know, these people share on WhatsApp or whatever, Facebook or Instagram. I might not remember the exact words, but in summary, it was saying, I would rather listen to your story now than come and listen to your eulogy.
That's right.
Yeah. So tell me your story. I might not help. You know, tell somebody else. In Kikuyu we say weitorore. Let it out.
Pour it out.
Pour it out. So that way you can fill yourself with the good. Because when you fill yourself with the good, it flows. It flows out there in good amount. That way it can also touch somebody else out there. And that is the sole purpose of my story.
And I would say that we serve a funny God. And I use this lightly because the same God who created the elephant created the ant.
Right.
Two different, contrasting
Yeah.
in size.
Yeah.
Even the roads we travel, they are not straight. We have those curves and bends, and that makes it livable. If life was a straight line, very determined, I mean, you can tell from end to end, it would be very boring. So those ups and downs in life, they get you to the point where you will need that higher power. You would need God when you're down. When you're up on the mountain, you can look back and see where you've been.
Right.
And when people see you up and down those valleys, they know they can make it through the valleys
Yes.
and the hills. And that's the beauty of life.
Right.
Ups and downs makes life livable.
Yes. Yes. Thank you. Thank you. I do appreciate. Thank you for your great word of advice. Thank you for coming here. I do not take it for lightly at all. I really do. And I don't just say that lightly because you are my husband. I say it on behalf of everyone who would want to see more men come out and talk and speak out and encourage, especially our young men here, especially in this country. And I know it is even worse in Kenya because I've had a lot of you tell me that. But even here, we encourage you. We encourage you to speak out. Don't die by yourself. Don't get to that point so dark that you cannot come out. Yeah, you cannot bring yourself out. Here, we're here to vision a hole. If you're in that hole, Job, you hold my hand and you pull that person under there, and I'm here pulling you. Yeah, so we all pull each other out of that hole, and that way we can be able to move on. Despite, because it doesn't mean even when you are up here in the service, all is good. But at least when we have each other, when we listen to each other, you have no idea how many responses I've gotten through the previous stories that we've had. Somebody says, oh, this is resonating with me so much. You know, this is me. I'm seeing myself in Grace's story. I'm seeing myself in Lillian's story. And many other stories that are going to be coming, because we all resonate. It might be different. Your story might be different from mine, but in one way or another, I have gone through such a thing. And so, if you like Job's story today, please comment, please share with somebody else out there, and like, you know, and subscribe. Don't forget to subscribe so that, you know, you can be, and also hit the, what do you call it? The notification button so that you can know when we come and we have new stories. And the sole purpose of my story is to encourage you, is to motivate you, and is to inspire you. So I thank you so much for being with us, and do not forget the little things in life. Enjoy them to the maximum. Thank you, and have a good day or night. Bye-bye.
Bye.
So thank you also to my cameraman, Mr. Bernardo. Maura, thank you. Maura is our son. He's the cameraman today. And thank you for the music lady, Mrs. Ngere. Miss, oh my goodness, she's a Miss Ngere. Shiko is our daughter. So I guess my story is a family affair thingy. Thank you. I do appreciate you, Bernard. I do appreciate you, Shiko. Thank you for this is support for my story. So may God bless you. Thanks.